Snow swept across Fifth Avenue like silver dust when Lauren Bennett opened the email that would upend her Christmas Eve. She was sitting in her tiny Brooklyn apartment, the heat barely working, her worn sweater pulled tight around her 7-month belly. The world outside glowed with holiday lights, but her room felt dim, quiet, and painfully small. For a moment, she thought she was reading the message wrong, but the name at the top was unmistakable. Grayson Hale. Her ex-husband. The man who'd left her when she was at her lowest. The man who built his reputation on charm, risk, and a ruthlessness wrapped in designer suits. He was the kind of man who never looked back until tonight. She clicked the email again as if the words might rearrange themselves. Lauren, I'd like you to join our annual Christmas Eve gala at the Halesphere penthouse. I believe it's time we moved forward with clarity. Grayson. Moved forward? Clarity? She almost laughed. Grayson was incapable of doing anything without a hidden purpose. He wouldn't invite her out of kindness, not after everything. Not after the divorce, the humiliation, the lies Celeste Monroe whispered into his ear until Lauren was pushed out of her own marriage. Her hands trembled, partly from anger, partly from the exhaustion of pregnancy. She hadn't planned to ever see him again. She certainly hadn't planned to walk into a room full of Manhattan elites while carrying a child whose father no one knew by choice. She should delete the email, block the address, pretend life was peaceful. But there were things. Grayson still held documents she desperately needed for the baby, papers he refused to release, claiming he was too busy or traveling. This might be her only chance. Her phone buzzed with a message from a former coworker. He's showing off tonight, bringing the new girl. Don't let him get to you. Lauren closed her eyes. Her heart beat painfully against her ribs. She didn't want to go. She didn't want to face Grayson or the woman he left her for. But something in her pride, anger, survival whispered that she had to. She took a shaky breath, rested her hand on her belly, and whispered softly, "We won't let them break us again." Then she reached for her coat. Outside, a black SUV rolled to a stop beneath her window, as if someone already knew she'd need a ride. The morning light creeping through the blinds did nothing to warm Lauren Bennett's small Brooklyn apartment. The radiator clicked, groaned, and then fell silent again, as useless as the promises Grayson once made. She sat at the edge of her unmade bed, breathing slowly, rubbing her tired eyes. At 30, she had imagined a different life, maybe a house in the suburbs, a dog, a partner who cherished her. Instead, she had a stack of overdue bills on the kitchen counter and prenatal vitamins sitting next to an empty coffee mug because she couldn't stomach anything more than toast. Her MacBook Air hummed quietly on the table as she reviewed design concepts for a tiny event studio that paid her half of what she used to earn. Before everything fell apart, she had been the creative mind behind major Manhattan events, corporate galas, museum benefits, fashion showcases. She had worked with lighting crews, florists, and decor teams. She had built worlds from nothing but imagination. But that was before Grayson Hale stripped her confidence piece by piece, telling her clients she was too emotional or not detail-oriented enough, pushing her out of projects until she had no choice but to leave. She didn't miss him. Not anymore. She missed who she used to be before him. Every part of her life now felt smaller. The apartment was barely big enough for a sofa and a crib she bought second-hand from a woman in Queens. The baby clothes were in a laundry basket because she didn't have a dresser. Even groceries had become a careful calculation: how long she could stretch a bag of rice, how many meals she could make with a carton of eggs. And yet, despite everything, she held her belly tenderly each morning, whispering, "You're worth all of this." What she didn't tell anyone was how lonely the nights were, the fear that tightened her chest when she felt a sudden cramp, the anxiety that washed over her every time she saw an unfamiliar charge on her bank statement, wondering if a bill had bounced. The shame she felt when people assumed the baby belonged to Grayson, the very man who had abandoned her emotionally long before the divorce papers were signed. Sometimes she thought about reaching out to friends. But most of them drifted toward Grayson's world after the split, drawn to the glitter of his penthouse, his parties, his connections. She stopped opening Instagram because photos of mutual friends smiling beside Grayson and Celeste felt like tiny knives. Still, Lauren forced herself to work, determined to stay afloat, determined to protect the child she carried. Her phone buzzed with a reminder. Ultrasound appointment, tomorrow at 11 a.m. She exhaled shakily. Another cab fare she couldn't afford. Another day she'd have to smile at strangers while hiding how overwhelmed she felt. She turned back to her laptop, adjusting a floral centerpiece design for a winter engagement party. Her fingers trembled, but she kept working. She had no choice. She needed every dollar, especially since Grayson still hadn't sent the paperwork she needed. Papers that could determine her medical coverage, her leave options, even her ability to secure stable housing after the baby arrived. The knock on her door startled her. She wasn't expecting anyone. No deliveries, no neighbors, no friends. Her heart thudded once, heavy and unsure. She stood slowly, pressing a hand against her belly as she walked toward the door. When she opened it, the last person she expected was standing in the dim hallway. Adrian Wolfe, holding an envelope with her name written in his unmistakably elegant handwriting. The Halesphere penthouse glittered like a glass castle against the Manhattan skyline, its floor-to-ceiling windows catching every reflection of the Christmas lights below. Inside, the air hummed with the low thrum of classical music, the scent of pine-scented candles, and the sharp, cold aroma of expensive champagne chilling in buckets along the marble island. Grayson Hale stood before his living room mirror, adjusting the cufflinks on his white dress shirt custom engraved, a gift from a board member who expected returns. Everything about him tonight was curated. The sleek haircut, the tailored charcoal suit, the watch he wore only when he needed to remind people of his success. But beneath the polished exterior was a growing, restless irritation. "Are you sure this is a good idea?" Celeste Monroe asked as she walked in, her heels tapping like warnings across the marble floor. She wore a silver gown that glittered like crushed stars and a confidence that seemed almost manufactured. "Inviting your ex-wife? On Christmas Eve? Investors will be here. Press 2. Grayson smirked, smoothing the lapel of his jacket. "Exactly. It shows maturity, closure." He didn't notice the way Celeste's jaw tightened, but she noticed everything. She stepped closer, an edge creeping into her voice. "You don't need closure, Grayson. You need control. There's a difference." He didn't flinch. He never did. "Control is what keeps a company alive. And Lauren walking in here, seeing the life I built without her, it ends all lingering stories. Investors want a clean narrative." Celeste tilted her head. "And you think she'll come just because you sent an email?" He shrugged, reaching for a glass of whiskey. "Lauren always shows up eventually. She hates loose ends." Celeste's smile was thin, almost invisible. "She also hates you, if you haven't noticed." Grayson ignored her jab. He wasn't used to anyone telling him something he didn't want to hear. In his world, truth was optional. Image was everything. And Lauren, quiet, stubborn, moral Lauren, was a loose thread he never fully snipped. Celeste moved toward the window, staring down at Fifth Avenue, where crowds bustled through the cold night, wrapped in scarves and hope. She pressed her finger against the glass, leaving a faint print. "You sure she won't make a scene?" "Pregnant women, well, emotions run high." Grayson stiffened. "No one knows she's pregnant." Celeste gave a slow, knowing blink. "Are you absolutely sure?" He turned sharply. "What do you mean by that?" She faced him, lips curling at the corners. "People talk. Her old coworkers, her neighbors. New York gossip moves fast. And if she shows up tonight looking vulnerable, pregnant, overwhelmed, it could make you look like the villain." Grayson scoffed. "I'm not the villain." End quote. Celeste studied him, the faintest spark of irritation flickering in her eyes before she concealed it. "Of course not. Just be prepared." She walked toward the bar cart, pouring herself a drink. Her hands were steady, but her mind was busy. Very busy. There were things Grayson didn't know, things she'd made sure he never learned, things that would burn everything if they surfaced. "You should be careful," Celeste added softly. "Some truths don't stay buried forever." And 45. But Grayson barely heard her. His phone buzzed with a notification from an investor, confirming attendance. Everything was unfolding perfectly. He lifted his glass, satisfied. And then, the elevator chimed. He frowned. No one was supposed to arrive this early. Celeste's expression flickered just long enough to reveal fear. Celeste Monroe had always known how to manipulate a room long before she ever learned how to manipulate a man. Growing up in a cramped Ohio apartment with a mother who adored attention and a father who was rarely sober, Celeste learned early that survival belonged to the person who controlled the narrative. And she controlled narratives better than anyone. She turned high school drama into scholarships. She turned college gossip into networking opportunities. She turned her first PR internship into a job in Manhattan. And then she turned Grayson Hale into her golden ticket. But Lauren Bennett, gentle, stubborn, painfully authentic, was the one thing Celeste couldn't bend or shape. Lauren had no interest in performance. She had no desire for attention. And that made her dangerous. People trusted her, people liked her, people believed her. Celeste hated that. So when she learned Grayson planned to invite Lauren to the Christmas Eve gala, she already saw the cracks forming. She knew Grayson wanted a show of strength, a display of closure for the investors circling Halesphere's upcoming IPO. But Celeste also knew something Grayson didn't. Lauren wasn't broken. She was rising. A rising woman was the most dangerous kind. And Celeste wasn't about to let her take even one step closer. She moved across the penthouse now, her silver gown glimmering under the chandeliers as she crossed to the small office at the end of the hallway. She shut the door quietly behind her, locking it for good measure. Her phone buzzed with a notification from the private group chat. She managed a curated circle of influencers, microbloggers, and gossip writers who owed her favors. She typed quickly, her nails tapping like soft gunshots. Tonight's Halesphere gala is about to get messy. Sources confirm the ex-wife might show up visibly pregnant. Stay alert for photos. Story will go live at my signal. 3 dots pulsed in reply. Then another. Then a chorus. We're ready. Send the angle. Pregnant ex? That's gold. Celeste's lips curled into a slow, satisfied smile. She wrote, headline suggestion, discarded wife returns carrying his secret? The frenzy that followed lit up her phone like fireworks. Celeste didn't care if it was cruel. Cruelty was a tool inconvenient only to people too soft to wield it. She slipped her phone into her clutch and checked her reflection in the dark glass of the office window. She practiced the expression she planned to wear when Lauren arrived. Sympathetic, with a hint of pity. Warm enough to fool the bystanders, cold enough to cut Lauren's knees out from beneath her. Celeste rehearsed her lines out loud. Oh, Lauren, you look brave showing up like this. Perfect. Sharp enough to wound, subtle enough to deny. Satisfied, she turned to leave the office, but froze when she saw the screen of Grayson's laptop glowing faintly on the desk, left open from his earlier meeting. She shouldn't look. She knew she shouldn't look. But temptation pulled at her like gravity. The document on the screen made her stomach flip. It was a confidential file from Wolf Capital. The name Adrian Wolf burned like a warning across the top. Celeste leaned closer, reading quickly, too quickly, her face draining of color. There were numbers, projections, an acquisition timeline. Adrian wasn't just attending the gala. He was planning something. Something big. Her breath caught. If Adrian was involved, then Lauren wasn't just a threat. She was leverage. A dangerous, critical piece of a game Celeste didn't even know she was playing. The office door rattled suddenly. Celeste straightened, heart pounding. Someone was outside, and the voice that called her name sent a chill so sharp it felt like winter slicing through her gown. For a moment, Lauren could only stare at him as if her mind needed a full minute to accept what her eyes already knew. Adrian Wolf, impossibly composed, impeccably dressed, radiating that quiet authority she remembered, stood in the dim hallway, snow still clinging to the shoulders of his charcoal coat. He looked almost out of place in her old building, with its chipped paint and buzzing overhead lights. Adrian belonged in steel and glass offices high above Manhattan, not outside the door of a struggling woman who had once designed bouquets for his charity events. Lauren, he said softly, not with pity, not with surprise, but with something far more grounding recognition. You look tired. It wasn't an insult, it was concern shaped into words. She swallowed, instinctively smoothing her hair, suddenly aware of the loose t-shirt stretched awkwardly over her belly. Adrian, what are you doing here? He lifted the envelope slightly. You left your name off a form when you submitted that design contract last month. They mailed this to my office instead. I thought it was personal, so I brought it myself. Lauren flushed. A simple mailing mistake, yet she felt exposed, vulnerable. Everything in her life lately was held together with flimsy threads. One wrong breath and it all unraveled. You shouldn't have come out here in this weather, she murmured. I didn't mind, he said, his gaze drifting briefly to her belly with a subtle wince of worry. You shouldn't be alone so late. Something inside her tightened. He didn't mean anything romantic. Adrian never crossed lines. But kindness, after months of isolation, was almost unbearable. She stepped back. "Come in for a minute. Just to warm up." He hesitated, as if stepping into her small, imperfect world felt like crossing a boundary. Then he nodded and followed her inside. His tall frame filled the cramped apartment in a way that emphasized how small it truly was. Adrian glanced around, eyes lingering on the worn couch, the baby basket, the stack of bills on the counter. He didn't comment. He wasn't that kind of man. Instead, he walked to the window, watching cars push through slush on the street below. "Did you get the email?" he asked quietly. Lauren froze. "From who?" "Grayson." Her pulse hammered. Of course, Adrian would know. Men like him moved in circles, where every whisper reached the right ears. "I got it," she said. "I don't want to go." "You shouldn't," Adrian replied. "Not after how he treated you. Not with what you're dealing with now." She let out a shaky breath. "He still has paperwork I need. Insurance transfer forms, medical clarifications, things I can't get without his signature. He won't respond to my requests. Maybe if I show up, he'll finally hand them over." Adrian turned to her, expression darkening. "He's leveraging your pregnancy to keep control. That's not just manipulative, it's dangerous." Her eyes burned, but she refused to cry. She'd spent enough nights crying alone. "He won't get to control me forever," she whispered. Adrian stepped closer, lowering his voice. "If you must go, don't go alone." She lifted her chin. "I can handle myself." "Maybe," he said, "but handling yourself shouldn't mean walking into a lion's den without backup." She opened her mouth to reply, but a sudden sharp kick from the baby made her gasp and grab the table for balance. Adrian rushed forward, reaching for her arm. "Lauren, are you okay?" She nodded, breathing through it. "Just a strong one." But Adrian wasn't looking at her stomach. He was staring at her phone, buzzing on the counter. A notification flashed across the screen. A gossip headline with her name leaked only minutes ago. The wind hit Lauren the moment she stepped out of her building, a sharp December gust that sliced through her coat and raised goosebumps across her skin. Brooklyn was quieter tonight. Snow softened the streets, muffling car horns and footsteps. Christmas lights blinked across fire escapes, warm and cheerful in a way her heart no longer remembered. She pulled her scarf tighter, one hand instinctively supporting the weight of her belly. Adrian had insisted on walking her downstairs, hovering a few steps behind as if afraid she'd collapse again. He didn't push her to stay home. He didn't question her decision. He simply walked beside her, silent and steady. That alone made her throat tighten. "You still have time to change your mind," he said softly. "I can't," she whispered. "Not until he gives me those papers." Adrian's jaw tensed, but he said nothing more. A black SUV waited at the curb, the same one she'd seen earlier beneath her window. She'd assumed it belonged to a neighbor. Now she wasn't so sure. The driver stepped out immediately, opening the back door. "Miss Bennett?" Lauren blinked. "Do I know you?" "No, ma'am. I was instructed to take you to the Halesphere penthouse. Mr. Hale said you might need a ride." Her stomach twisted. Of course Grayson sent a car. He always liked to control the way she arrived, the way she looked, the way people perceived her. Even after divorce, he moved pieces as if she were still part of his board. Adrian stepped in front of her. She didn't confirm she would attend. "You don't get to just show up and order her around." The driver raised his hands. "Sir, I'm just following instructions." Lauren touched Adrian's arm lightly. "It's okay. I'll go." His eyes flashed with reluctance. "Then I'm following behind you. You don't need to." "I'm not asking permission," he said, his voice low and firm. "Not tonight." Her breath hitched. She nodded. Once she was inside the SUV, Lauren leaned her head back and closed her eyes. The leather smelled faintly of cedar. The heating vents whispered warm air across her face. She should have felt grateful for the comfort, but her chest ached. Her phone buzzed again, another notification. Another headline. "Ex-wife arrives at Christmas gala pregnant. Is it the CEO's baby?" She turned her face toward the window, blinking fast. She shouldn't let it get to her. But it did. All of it. The lies, the judgment, the way strangers scavenged her pain like scraps. Snowflakes blurred against the glass as the SUV moved across the bridge. Manhattan rose ahead, glittering, cold, ruthless. The city where she had once chased dreams now felt like a battlefield she had no armor for. The car slowed when they reached Fifth Avenue. Luxury boutiques glowed with gold holiday decor. Couples spilled out of the Plaza Hotel, laughing. Everywhere she looked, people seemed whole, untouched. The SUV finally rolled to a stop in front of the Halesphere Tower, a sleek structure of mirrored steel and ambition. A red carpet had been laid out, flanked by tall white trees dusted in artificial snow. Photographers waited outside despite the weather, lenses hungry. Lauren exhaled shakily as the driver opened her door. She stepped out slowly, boots crunching against the frost. Her heart pounded, her breath fogged in the air. Her knees felt weak. Inside that building was the man who tore her life apart. Inside that building were people who already believed the worst about her. She straightened her coat and lifted her chin. She would walk, she would endure, she would not let them see her break. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime. And standing inside waiting for her was the last face she ever expected to see before the night even began. The elevator doors slid open, and for a heartbeat Lauren forgot how to breathe. Standing inside, impeccably dressed in a navy velvet blazer, was Oliver Drake Grayson's former COO, now one of the most influential voices in Halesphere's upcoming IPO. Oliver had always been polite to her during the marriage, even kind in moments when Grayson's temper ran cold. But tonight, his expression held a different sharpness, like he was assessing her the way he assessed market risk. "Lauren," he said, surprise flickering into something unreadable. "I didn't think you would actually come." Her hand tightened around the strap of her purse. "Neither did I." He stepped aside to let her in, his gaze flicking briefly to her belly. Not judgmental, just startled. "I wasn't informed you were expecting." Of course he wasn't. Grayson controlled information like currency, and the people around him were only given what helped the narrative he wanted to sell. Lauren lifted her chin. "There's a lot Grayson doesn't tell people. Thanks for watching." Oliver's brows twitched almost imperceptibly, but he said nothing. The elevator began its smooth rise toward the penthouse, the familiar hum vibrating through her spine. She remembered riding this same elevator hundreds of times, arms full of floral samples, color palettes, decor sketches, trying to prove she belonged in Grayson's world of high stakes and sharper egos. Oliver cleared his throat. "Just prepare yourself. Press is already circling downstairs." She exhaled slowly. That was intentional. He nodded once, quietly confirming what she suspected. The leak had begun. As the elevator climbed, her pulse throbbed in her ears. She could almost hear echoes of past conversations, Grayson's sharp critiques, Celeste's fake compliments, the board members' dismissive nods when she tried to contribute ideas during dinners. She used to shrink in this tower. Not tonight. When the doors opened, the sound of music and conversation washed over them like a glittering wave. The penthouse was even more extravagant than she remembered. Towering garlands wrapped around marble columns, chandeliers dripping crystal white light, servers weaving through guests with trays of champagne. The decor was stunning, painfully so. She could almost recognize hints of her own old style, stolen and repackaged under Celeste's name. Eyes snapped toward her the moment she stepped out. Whispers followed immediately. "Is that Lauren? She's pregnant? Oh my God, do you think? It has to be his." Her cheeks burned, but she kept her posture straight. She refused to fold. Celeste spotted her first. Across the room, in a shimmering red gown that clung to every curve, Celeste's smile faltered before she forced it back into place. She whispered something into Grayson's ear, and he turned and froze. Grayson Hale, the man who had built an empire on confidence and charisma, looked like someone had yanked the ground out from under him. His jaw tightened, his hand fell from Celeste's waist. Lauren felt her own heartbeat hammer against her ribs. Grayson approached slowly, controlled, as if aware every camera in the room tracked him. His smile was tight, brittle. "Lauren," he said softly, almost warmly, the way a man speaks when the world is watching, "I'm surprised you came, as a Twiton." She met his gaze, steady. "You invited me." A few guests murmured, pretending not to stare. A photographer angled closer for a better shot. Grayson's eyes flicked downward to her belly, then back up, the muscles in his jaw flexing. "I see there's news." Before she could react, Celeste glided over, her voice honeyed and poisonous. "Lauren, sweetheart, you look brave." Really brave. Coming here like this. Lauren's stomach knotted. But before she could answer, a sudden commotion rose near the entrance. Guests gasped and turned. Phones lifted. Someone whispered, "Is that him?" Lauren followed their stares. And when she saw who walked in, every drop of warmth drained from her body. It was the last person she ever expected to show up at Grayson Hale's gala, and the only one who could shatter the night completely. For a moment, the entire penthouse seemed to stop breathing. The music softened into background haze, champagne flutes froze midair, and every conversation dimmed as the energy in the room shifted sharp, electric, hungry. People weren't subtle. They turned openly toward Lauren, whispering behind manicured hands and glittering jewelry. The questions fluttered through the crowd like sparks. Is she pregnant with Grayson's kid? Why else would she come tonight? Did he invite her for this? Lauren felt the heat rise to her cheeks. She wanted to step back, disappear into the wall, become invisible. But there was nowhere to hide. Cameras angled toward her, capturing her exhaustion, her swollen belly, her vulnerability. The scent of luxury perfume and pine garlands made her dizzy. Grayson stepped closer, his expression cracked between shock, fear, and something darker, panic. His carefully cultivated confidence faltered, revealing the insecure man underneath. His voice, though soft, carried the edge of command he always used when he wanted to control a narrative. "Lauren," he murmured through clenched teeth, "we need to talk. Now." She lifted her chin. "I don't owe you anything." His eyes flashed. "You owe me an explanation." "For my pregnancy?" she asked, her tone icy. Celeste stiffened, her manicured fingers curling around her crystal clutch. She tried to move closer, but Grayson lifted a hand, stopping her without even looking. The dismissal cut her like glass. Her smile twitched, forced and brittle. Lauren's voice trembled, but she didn't look away. "You don't get to demand explanations from me anymore." Grayson leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice so guests couldn't hear. But everyone still watched. "People think that child is mine," he hissed. "Do you have any idea what this timing does to my investors, my board, my credibility?" Ah, there it was. Not concern. Not guilt. Reputation. Always reputation. Lauren's chest tightened. "My pregnancy has nothing to do with you." A murmur rolled through the room. Shock, disbelief, excitement. Celeste's face paled. This wasn't the script she'd prepared for. She wanted Lauren desperate, humiliated, not firm and unflinching. Oliver Drake stepped closer, watching Grayson carefully. "We have shareholders here," he warned. "Whatever this is, manage it." But Grayson ignored him. He grabbed Lauren's elbow, not hard, but firm enough to assert ownership he no longer had. "You should have told me," he growled. "Before walking in here looking like—" She yanked her arm back. "Like what, Grayson? Like a woman you threw out when you thought she wasn't useful anymore." Gasps rippled again. A wine glass, somewhere, clinked in the hush. Celeste lunged forward, plastering on a faux concerned expression. "Lauren, sweetheart, no one's judging you. It's just such a bold choice. Showing up pregnant at your ex-husband's gala, people might misinterpret." Lauren turned slowly. "Like you misinterpreted your place in my marriage?" A hush fell so fast, the chandeliers seemed to hum. For the first time that night, Celeste's mask cracked. Her eyes sharpened, venomous. "Don't play innocent," she whispered. "You always made things so difficult for him. Poor Grayson had to rebuild everything you destroyed." Lauren felt the sting, but she didn't break. "Funny," she said quietly. "I don't remember cheating, or lying, or hacking someone's email." Celeste froze, too visibly. Grayson's head whipped toward her. "Hacking? What?" Lauren didn't move. She didn't blink. But Celeste's face said everything. Before Grayson could speak, the elevator chimed again. Everyone turned, and the person stepping out made Celeste's glass slip from her hand and shatter across the marble floor. Because he carried something that could destroy her entire lie. The man who stepped out of the elevator was dressed in a black tailored coat dusted with snowflakes, his hair wind-tousled as if he'd crossed the city in a hurry. Lauren recognized him instantly. Mason Clark, one of New York's most relentless gossip bloggers, a man who never turned down a scandal, especially one involving the wealthy. He wasn't supposed to be here, not at an invite-only corporate Christmas gala, not among CEOs, investors, and power couples who valued privacy more than morality. But he was here now, and he carried a camera. Celeste stiffened, her lips parting in silent horror. She had expected coverage, yes, but not him. Mason was unpredictable. Too eager. Too destructive. Even she couldn't control what he would do once unleashed. He lifted his camera and snapped a photo before anyone could stop him. Flash. 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 Each burst of light hit Lauren like blows. Lauren Bennett. Mason called across the penthouse, his voice slicing through the murmurs. Care to comment on the rumors about your pregnancy? The internet is already buzzing. Lauren froze. She felt eyes tightening around her like a noose. Her heart pounded, her palms grew damp. She wanted to run. Instead, she stood very still. Celeste was suddenly by Mason's side, moving with that faux grace she wore like perfume. Mason, it's so good to see you, she crooned, loud enough for onlookers. I didn't realize you got my message so quickly. Ah, so she had called him. Of course she had. Lauren's chest ached. Celeste continued, voice sugar-coated but sharp as glass. This poor woman showed up with no warning. It's tragic, really. She's clearly overwhelmed. And as you can see, she gestured subtly toward Lauren's belly. She's going through a lot. Lauren tightened her hold on her purse, her breath catching. Celeste wanted her emotional. Unhinged. Crying. Anything to feed the story. Mason angled forward. Lauren, mind sharing who the father is? Is it Grayson or someone else? Some people online are calling it a secrecy stunt. Gasps rippled. Lauren swallowed, throat burning. I don't owe anyone an explanation, but Mason only grinned wider. Celebrities don't get that luxury. And you're trending. Enough, Grayson snapped, stepping between Mason and Lauren. For a brief moment, she saw fear in his eyes, not for her, but for himself. For his brand, his reputation, his empire. But Celeste wasn't done. She tilted her head, speaking softly but loud enough for Mason's microphone to catch. You know, Lauren's always been dramatic. She loves attention. Loves making Grayson look bad. Lauren inhaled sharply, rage stinging. You don't know anything about my life. Oh, sweetheart, Celeste replied, smiling cruelly. I know enough. As very. That was all Mason needed. He turned to Lauren again, camera raised. How does it feel coming here pregnant, alone, and still causing chaos in your ex-husband's career? The words knifed into her. Alone, pregnant, chaos. Her vision blurred. She felt heat rising behind her eyes, her breath becoming thin, too thin. She couldn't break here. Not in front of them. Not in front of Celeste. But Mason took another photo, too close, too bright, and Lauren stumbled back, hand pressing instinctively to her belly. She felt lightheaded. The room seemed to tilt. Adrian moved through the crowd, his voice firm. Back away from her. But Mason didn't. The camera kept flashing. Lauren's knees buckled. Gasps erupted. Someone shouted for space. And just before Lauren hit the marble floor, a pair of strong arms caught her, pulling her out of the camera's reach as the entire penthouse erupted into chaos. The room spun in slow, nauseating circles as Lauren felt the marble floor drop away beneath her. She heard gasps, muffled voices, the frantic shuffle of heels on polished stone. But the world only stabilized when she felt arms steady, warm, familiar, wrap around her, lifting her from collapse. Adrian. His voice was low but urgent. Lauren, breathe. I've got you. He guided her toward a quieter corner, away from the flashing cameras and the hungry crowd that smelled of champagne and scandal. Her pulse throbbed painfully in her ears, every heartbeat sending a shockwave of dizziness through her chest. She tried to inhale, but her breath trembled. I'm okay, she whispered, though she wasn't sure if the words made sense. No, you're not, Adrian said firmly. You need a doctor, if you want to die. Before she could respond, Grayson stormed toward them, his face twisted with panic, not worry for her, but terror for what the sight of her collapse meant for him, for his company, for his image. What the hell was that? Grayson hissed. Do you have any idea what you just caused? Adrian straightened, stepping between them. Back off, Grayson. But Grayson ignored him, eyes locked on Lauren like she was a wildfire threatening to burn his world. Are you trying to sabotage me? You show up pregnant, emotional, and now you're fainting in front of the press? Do you want headlines saying, I'm the father? Are you doing this on purpose? The words stabbed through her like cold knives. Lauren stared at him, disbelief splintering into something deeper, hurt, old and familiar. She tried to speak, but her breath shuddered. "You think I planned this?" she whispered. Grayson scoffed. "You always did love theatrics. Ass. And dolces." Adrian's jaw tightened so sharply it looked painful. She nearly passed out. She didn't stage anything. But Grayson wasn't listening. He leaned closer, lowering his voice but not his cruelty. "No one will ever believe that child isn't mine. Not after tonight. You're dragging me into your mess." "My mess?" Lauren echoed, her voice cracking. "You left me with nothing. You refused to sign the paperwork I needed. You—" "I didn't sign because I don't trust you," Grayson snapped. "Not after the rumors. Not after the emails." Lauren stiffened. "The emails. The ones Celeste fabricated. The lies Grayson swallowed whole." "You're blaming me for something she did," Lauren whispered. Celeste, standing behind Grayson, flinched. But Grayson didn't turn. He didn't even consider the possibility. He never did. "Stop making excuses," he spat. "You always twist things to make yourself the victim." "Enough." Adrian's voice cracked through the air like thunder. The entire room fell silent. Adrian stepped forward, shoulders squared, eyes burning. "If you talk to her like that again, you'll regret it." "Is that a threat?" Grayson growled. "It's a promise." The tension snapped so tight the air seemed to howl with it. Guests shifted uneasily. Phones rose again, recording, watching, waiting. Grayson realized too late he'd let his temper spill publicly. He masked it with a stiff, PR smile. "Let's talk somewhere private, Lauren." "If we doesn't." "No," she said softly. "I'm not going anywhere with you." Her voice was quiet but unbreakable. The first flicker of humiliation crossed Grayson's face. Celeste stepped in quickly, desperate to redirect attention. "Lauren, honey, stress isn't good for the baby. Maybe you need to." "Don't," Lauren whispered. "Don't pretend you care." Celeste's expression faltered. Before anyone could speak again, the penthouse doors slammed open. Security rushed inside, followed by a man in a crisp navy suit, carrying a folder and wearing an expression that told everyone something monumental had happened downstairs. He scanned the room. His eyes landed on Lauren, and he said 6 words that made the entire gala erupt into frantic whispers. "Miss Bennett, you need to come with us now." The room seemed to tilt as Lauren stared at the man in the navy suit. His expression was grave, urgent, so out of place in a room drowning in champagne, glitter, and whispered scandal. Security lingered behind him, their posture stiff with purpose. Every eye in the penthouse shifted toward her. "Miss Bennett," he repeated, firmer this time, "we need you to come with us immediately." Grayson stepped forward, scoffing. "What is this? Some ridiculous stunt?" But the man didn't even acknowledge him. His gaze remained on Lauren, as if she were the only person in the room who mattered. Lauren swallowed, her voice shaky. "Why? What's happening?" "We'll explain downstairs," the man said. "It's important." Fear tightened in her chest. Her hand instinctively moved to her belly. Adrian noticed immediately. He stepped to her side, placing himself between her and the rest of the crowd like an instinctive shield. "You're not taking her anywhere until you tell us why," Adrian said quietly, but the quiet made it more dangerous. The man hesitated, glancing around at the crowd. "This is sensitive information." Celeste's eyes gleamed with sick curiosity. What could possibly be so important about her? Lauren flinched. The man exhaled sharply and lowered his voice. "The story circulating online has escalated. Someone anonymously submitted documents suggesting Miss Bennett's pregnancy is tied to a corporate cover-up." A collective gasp rippled. Lauren felt the blood drain from her face. "A what?" Adrian cursed under his breath. "This is getting out of hand." Grayson turned pale, not out of concern, but out of fear. "This is insane. What documents?" But Lauren saw something flicker in the man's expression, hesitation, regret, almost sympathy. "It's better we speak away from the cameras," he said. "Cameras?" She turned slowly. Dozens of phones were raised. People pretended to check messages, but lenses were pointed at her. Recording her, judging her, devouring her. Her knees weakened again. Adrian moved instantly, his hand gently gripping her arm to steady her. His voice dropped, soft, protective. "Lauren, You don't have to go anywhere alone. I'm with you. Those 4 words felt like warmth in a world suddenly frozen. But Grayson shoved forward, fueled by panic. She's not going anywhere with them. This is my event, my building, my... Adrian cut him off sharply. She's not your anything. Gasps again. Silence. Electricity. Adrian turned to the man in the suit. If she goes downstairs, I go with her. The man nodded. Fine. But we need to move now. Celeste stepped forward, bitterness slicing through her voice. You're all overreacting. Lauren loves the spotlight. She probably... Adrian spun, eyes blazing. If you speak one more word about her, I'll make sure everyone here knows exactly what you've done. Celeste's lips snapped shut. Fear shimmered behind her mascaraed eyes. The man motioned for them to follow. Lauren's breaths came unevenly. Her legs felt heavy. The humiliation, the fear, the pressure of eyes digging into her, it all pressed down like crushing weight. Adrian leaned close. I've got you. Just focus on breathing. They started walking. Guests parted like a sea, some out of respect, some out of morbid fascination. Whispered theories swirled around her like poison. Corporate cover-up? Is it Grayson's? Maybe she was paid off. Maybe she's a problem they need to contain. Her heart ached, her throat tightening with each cruel assumption. When they reached the elevator, a security guard held the doors open. Adrian guided Lauren inside first, his hand still steady on her back. Grayson pushed forward to follow, but the guard blocked him with one firm arm. Sir, only Miss Bennett and Mr. Wolfe. Grayson's eyes widened in outrage. You can't shut me out of this. But the guard didn't move. Adrian reached out and pressed the elevator button. The last thing Lauren saw before the doors slid shut was Grayson's face, panic, desperation, fury, all tangled together. And the last thing she heard was Celeste's voice, trembling for the first time all night. If they're taking her downstairs, they might know. They might know everything. The elevator descended with a soft mechanical hum, but inside, the silence felt suffocating. Lauren pressed her back against the cool, mirrored wall, trying to steady her breathing. Her chest rose and fell too quickly, her pulse skipping with leftover fear and humiliation. Adrian stood beside her, arms at his sides, jaw tight enough to crack stone. Lauren, he murmured, voice low. You're safe. She didn't feel safe. Not tonight, not after being dragged across the gossip feeds like a headline waiting to explode. What documents? She whispered. Why would anyone send something about me? Adrian's eyes softened. We'll figure it out together. The elevator chimed. The doors slid open into a private floor, quiet, dim, free from glittering chaos. Security stood by the walls, their expressions professional but tense. The man in the navy suit motioned for her and Adrian to follow. They entered a small conference room, lit by warm overhead lights. A table sat in the center, a folder placed neatly on top. Lauren's legs wobbled as she lowered herself into a chair. Adrian stood behind her, one hand resting on the back of her seat like an anchor. The man in the suit finally spoke. Miss Bennett, my name is Daniel Cross. I'm part of the Halesphere legal and compliance team. A situation has come up that concerns you directly. Lauren's stomach twisted. Concerns? Me? Daniel nodded. About an hour ago, someone submitted documents to several media outlets claiming you were involved in a non-disclosure agreement with Halesphere. The claim alleges you are carrying Mr. Hale's child and that the company attempted to cover it up. Lauren's heart dropped. The room blurred. That's not true. And, of there. Daniel raised both hands. We know. The documents are forged. Shock rippled through her. Forged? Adrian swore under his breath. This is targeted. Someone wants her destroyed. Lauren's voice cracked. But why? Daniel hesitated. He exchanged a glance with a guard. Something about the silence made Lauren's skin prickle. He opened the folder and slid a printed screenshot toward her. The breath left her lungs. It was an email thread, supposedly written by her. Confessing an affair with Grayson. Begging for hush money. Threatening to go public if he refused. Every line was a lie. I didn't write this, Lauren whispered, hands trembling. Daniel nodded. I know, but someone wants the world to think you did. These were sent anonymously, timed perfectly with your arrival upstairs. Lauren felt sick. Someone planned this meticulously. Adrian leaned over the table, voice sharp. Who had access to these systems? Who benefits from leaking this tonight, of all nights. Daniel sighed. That's the problem. These emails weren't sent from our servers. They came from a spoofed address made to look like yours. Lauren's throat tightened. So, someone pretended to be me? Yes, Daniel said, and they've been doing it for months. Ice shot down her spine. Months. A single name flashed through her mind, unbidden but unmistakable. Celeste. Daniel continued. We compared the formatting, metadata, writing style. These messages were manufactured by someone who knows Halesphere's internal processes well enough to mimic how scandals unfold in this industry. This wasn't random. Adrian's voice turned deadly. Do you know who did it? Daniel paused again. This time, too long. He finally said, carefully, let's just say, the timing and style line up with a previous internal case involving a PR staff member. Lauren's heart hammered. PR. Celeste. Her fingers curled against the table. Daniel closed the folder quietly. We need your permission to open a formal investigation. The evidence is pointing somewhere specific, but we can't say anything without protocol. Lauren swallowed. And what happens if I say yes? Daniel looked her straight in the eyes. Then the truth comes out no matter who it destroys. Before she could respond, a frantic knock rattled the door. A guard burst inside. His face was pale. Sir, something's happening upstairs. The press just got a new leak. Daniel stiffened. What leak? The guard swallowed hard. A video. Of Miss Bennett and Mr. Hale. And it's about to go viral. The shock hit Lauren like a physical blow. A video? She whispered, her voice barely audible. What video? The guard looked pale. It shows you and Mr. Hale in a heated argument. The clip makes it look like you were demanding hush money and threatening to expose him. Take strands. Lauren felt her lungs tighten as if someone had tied rope around her chest. I've never done that. Not once. Adrian slammed his hand against the table. Of course she didn't. He turned sharply to Daniel. Who leaked it? Daniel's face was stone. We don't know yet, but the timing is too precise. Someone prepared this in advance. Prepared. Planned. Executed. This wasn't random. This wasn't accidental. This was war. Lauren's voice trembled. I want to see the video. End quote. Daniel hesitated. It's upsetting. I need to see it, she insisted, steadier this time. I won't fight ghosts. He nodded reluctantly and tapped his tablet. A paused video filled the screen. Lauren, in a hallway lit with soft sconces, facing Grayson. Her expression looked desperate, terrified. Not because she was demanding anything, but because Grayson had backed her into a corner during one of their final fights. That night had been the beginning of the end for her. Daniel pressed play. In the real memory, she had begged him to stop lying. Begged him to stop letting Celeste poison their marriage. Begged him not to shut her out. But the audio here was wrong. Completely wrong. Lauren watched in horror as a distorted version of her own voice emerged from the speakers. If you don't pay me what you owe, I'll tell the board everything. She gasped. That's not me. I never said that. Daniel paused the clip. This is fake audio layered over real footage. Deep fake manipulation. And whoever did it had access to expensive software. Adrian's jaw clenched. Who benefits from framing her like this? Who gains if Lauren is discredited? Lauren felt cold settle into her bones. Celeste. Daniel and Adrian exchanged a look grim, heavy. Daniel carefully opened the folder again and laid out a new document. We pulled metadata from the forged emails. The patterns match a previous internal incident, an employee who falsified information during a PR crisis. Lauren stared at him. Celeste. Daniel finally nodded. The evidence points to her, yes. She hacked multiple accounts 6 months ago, but the case was buried quietly by Mr. Hale. Lauren swayed. Grayson covered it up. He knew Celeste was capable of manipulation. He knew she fabricated information. He protected her anyway. Adrian's voice dropped to a deadly whisper. He let this happen to Lauren. Daniel's expression tightened. We couldn't prove she sent the leaks yet, but the digital fingerprints line up. Someone with PR, access, knowledge of the system, and a motive. A motive. Celeste had 1,000. Lauren's breath trembled. Why? Why go this far? Daniel's eyes softened with pity. Because you're a threat. A pregnant ex-wife walking into a room full of investors on the eve of an IPO? Celeste stands to lose everything: status, access, her relationship with Hale if you're perceived as sympathetic. Adrian stepped closer to Lauren, his presence grounding her. This isn't your fault. This is the result of two people terrified of losing control. Before Lauren could speak, the conference room door burst open again, this time harder, louder. A second guard rushed in, breathless. "Sir, you need to come see this." The video just hit every major feed, and someone upstairs just confronted Miss Monroe. Daniel stiffened. Confronted her? Who? The guard swallowed. "Mr. Hale." And it's turning into a scene. The moment Lauren, Adrian, and Daniel stepped out of the private floor and back toward the elevators, the sound met them first, a muffled uproar rising like storm waves crashing against glass. Voices overlapping. Shouts. Something breaking. Then, another sharp crack, the unmistakable sound of a glass hitting the floor. Security stiffened. Daniel quickened his pace. That's coming from the main hall. Lauren's pulse pounded. Is Grayson hurting her? Adrian placed a steadying hand at her back. No, Celeste is too good at playing victim. He's the one who's unraveling. The elevator doors opened to chaos. The penthouse, once polished, glittering, immaculate, was a tornado of tension. Guests had circled near the grand staircase, their designer gowns and tuxedos glowing beneath the chandelier. Phones were raised everywhere, capturing every frame, eager to witness the implosion of Halesphere's power couple. At the center stood Grayson Hale, jaw clenched, eyes blazing, trembling with barely contained rage. Celeste stood across from him, the red gown shimmering around her like a warning flare. Mascara streaked down her cheeks, not from tears, but from fury. Fake, theatrical fury. A smashed champagne flute lay at her feet. "You told me you handled it," Grayson roared. "You said the emails were gone." Celeste's voice shot back, sharp as a blade. "I deleted everything I could, but I can't control every video, every leak, every blogger. You caused this." He fired back. "You did this to her." Her eyes flared. "To her, or to you?" Murmurs swirled through the crowd. Grayson ran a shaking hand through his hair. "You forged the emails. You planted stories. And now the board thinks I'm involved in a cover-up because of you." Celeste's composure cracked. "I did it for us." "There is no us," he snapped. A ripple of shock rolled through the room. Lauren felt her breath catch, not out of sympathy but out of disbelief at how fast Grayson unraveled when the spotlight no longer protected him. Celeste stepped closer, voice lowering into venom. "You coward, you used me. You let me clean up your messes, lie for you, manipulate for you. And now you're going to pin this on me?" Grayson barked a humorless laugh. "You enjoyed every minute of it. Don't pretend you didn't." Celeste lunged, grabbing his lapel. "You promised me a future, and you destroyed it with your stupidity," he shouted. Gasps erupted. Someone whispered, "They're done." Someone else said, "He's finished." For the first time all night, Grayson looked around, really looked and saw the cameras. The judging eyes. The witnesses, the investors he once charmed, now staring with disgust. His empire was cracking, and he knew it. Daniel stepped forward. "Mr. Hale, you need to stop. This is damaging the company." Grayson ignored him. His gaze slammed into Lauren. She froze. "You," he growled, "you're loving this, aren't you? Watching my life fall apart?" Adrian moved between them before the crowd even blinked. "She hasn't done a damn thing," Adrian said, voice cold. "You and Celeste built this disaster. You're just finally standing in the wreckage." Celeste let out a sharp, trembling laugh. "The wreckage? You want to see wreckage, Adrian? You think you know everything?" She turned suddenly toward the crowd, voice rising. Desperate, unhinged, wild. "I wasn't the only one lying. Grayson has secrets, 2 big ones, and when they come out, none of you will ever look at him the same." A wave of murmurs surged violently. Lauren's heart pounded. "What secrets?" several guests demanded. Celeste's gaze slid to Lauren with a twisted, triumphant smile. "Oh, sweetheart," she hissed. "You think you're the victim? He kept far worse from you than forged emails." Grayson paled. Adrian stepped forward. "Celeste? Don't." But she only lifted her chin. "Why should I protect him anymore?" she said, "when I wasn't even his biggest secret." Lauren's breath froze. Celeste smiled, slow, poisonous, merciless. "Ask him who else he lied to you about, especially the night your marriage ended. The room buzzed with a sharp, fevered electricity. Celeste's accusation lingered in the air like smoke after an explosion, thick, suffocating, impossible to ignore. Guests pressed closer, hungry for the next blow. Phones lifted. Investors whispered harshly behind crystal glasses. The gala had become a battleground. Lauren's pulse hammered. What did he lie to me about? Grayson's face drained of color. Celeste, don't. Celeste folded her arms, power returning to her posture. Why not? You never had a problem letting me take the fall for your messes. Adrian stepped between Lauren and the two of them, protective but sharp-eyed. If you know something relevant to Lauren or to the investigation, you should say it correctly, with proof, not dramatics. Celeste's lips curled. You want proof? Fine. He didn't just lie to her, he destroyed evidence the night their marriage ended. Ezra. Lauren's breath hitched. Evidence of what? Celeste reached into her glittering clutch and pulled out a small flash drive, sleek, silver, ominous. Of the real email thread before he deleted it. Gasps rang out. Lauren staggered. There were emails. You never showed me? Grayson's voice cracked. Lauren, I didn't want to hurt you. You hurt me anyway, she whispered. Celeste held up the flash drive like it was a dagger. This contains the messages he saw that night, the ones he used to justify walking out. The ones he thought were from you. Her gaze sharpened. But they weren't. I made them. The entire room erupted. Shouts, disbelief, shaken fury. Lauren felt her knees weaken again. You hacked me. You pretended to be me all that time? Celeste shrugged. You were in the way. Adrian's voice cut through the chaos. Enough. He moved forward with a steadiness that commanded silence. Even the music faded into background irrelevance. Adrian held out his hand. Give me the drive. Celeste tightened her grip. Not without something in return. You're in no position to negotiate, Adrian said, calm as ice. But Celeste wasn't looking at him now. Her eyes slid to Grayson. Unless Grayson wants to tell her himself, she said sweetly, venom dripping between each syllable. Tell her what you destroyed. Tell her the truth you buried to protect your image. It's Comet. Grayson froze. Shame real, raw shame warping his features. Lauren felt her heart throb painfully. Grayson, what did you do? He swallowed hard, unable to meet her eyes. Adrian stepped in. It doesn't matter. She'll know everything soon. Then, something no one expected happened. Oliver Drake, silent until now, stepped from the crowd with a calm, chilling authority. Actually, she'll know everything right now. All eyes snapped to him. Oliver pulled out his phone and tapped the screen. While you all were busy tearing each other apart, I forwarded our compliance logs to Mr. Wolf. Adrian blinked. You what? Oliver nodded. Because unlike him, he gestured at Grayson, you care about the truth. Adrian checked his phone. The air tightened around him as he scanned the files, metadata trails, timestamp logs, server records. His eyes darkened. Then he looked straight at Lauren. Lauren, he said softly. Celeste didn't just hack your email. She swallowed. What else did she do? Adrian turned to Celeste, cold, controlled, devastating. You didn't fake those messages alone. Someone helped you. Celeste's face went white. Adrian's voice sharpened. Someone who had access, who knew Lauren's schedule, who handled the internal IT handoff during the divorce. Grayson stiffened. The room seemed to lean forward. Lauren's heart pounded. Adrian's jaw tightened. It was someone in this room. A hush fell. Then he said it. The data trail leads straight to Grayson. For a moment, no one in the penthouse moved. Adrian's words echoed in the air like a gunshot. The data trail leads straight to Grayson. Shock rippled through the crowd. Someone gasped. Someone else muttered, no way. A few investors exchanged horrified glances, their expressions calculating the fallout in real time. Grayson's face twisted, rage and fear colliding in violent confusion. That's insane. I would never. You did. Adrian cut in, calm but cutting. The server logs don't lie. Lauren felt the blood drain from her face. She blinked hard, trying to steady her breath, but the room tilted slightly. She pressed one hand against the banquet table. Grayson, tell me it's not true. He opened his mouth, panic flickering across his eyes. Lauren, listen to me. But Celeste stepped forward, her laughter sharp, broken, and vicious. "This is rich. You really thought you could pin it all on me, didn't you?" "Shut up," Grayson hissed. She ignored him. "You told me to help you. You begged me to create something that made Lauren look unfaithful. You said she wouldn't sign the divorce papers fast enough. You said she was costing you time." Lauren staggered. What? Celeste smirked, enjoying every second of the spectacle. He needed a clean break, an excuse to leave without public backlash. "So we came up with one. If you came to the visit." Grayson lunged forward, grabbing her wrist. "You weren't supposed to say that out loud." "But why not?" she snarled, yanking her hand back. "You threw me under the bus the moment things got messy. You're not worth protecting." People murmured in shock. Celeste's voice rose. "He told me to forge the emails. I executed them. But he orchestrated the whole thing. He gave me the dates, the names. He fed me Lauren's private schedule so I could make the fake messages believable. If one and two." Lauren felt the ground sway. Tears blurred her vision. You used my own life against me." Grayson stepped toward her, desperate. "I was wrong, okay? I panicked. The company was under pressure. And You destroyed her," Adrian snapped. "No," Grayson insisted, his voice cracking. "I never wanted this to go so far." Celeste laughed again, a hollow, tremoring sound that made several guests recoil. "You loved every bit of it. You loved watching her crumble while you strutted around with me on your arm. You said she was dead weight slowing your rise." Lauren covered her mouth, choking on a sob she fought to contain. Adrian moved closer to her, his voice low and fierce. "You're done, Grayson." But Grayson wasn't listening anymore. His chest heaved as he turned on Celeste. "You were supposed to clean the trail. You were supposed to delete everything." Celeste stepped into his space, eyes burning. "Why should I? You never gave me what you promised. Not the ring, not the future, not even the respect." Someone whispered, "She's unhinged." But Celeste wasn't finished. "You think I came tonight unprepared?" she hissed. She reached into her clutch again. Another device. This time, a phone. "I recorded everything," she said. "Every conversation, every plan, every order you gave me." Grayson's face went white. Adrian exhaled sharply. "You two really built your relationship on blackmail and treachery." Celeste smiled. "Oh, sweetheart, he built the treachery. I just documented it." Daniel stepped forward, voice tight with alarm. "Miss Monroe, handing that over might become part of a criminal investigation." "Oh, I know," she purred. "And I'm ready." Gasps exploded. Lauren stared at Celeste, shocked that someone so cruel could suddenly turn her blade on the man she once worshipped. Celeste lifted the phone, her thumb hovering over the play button. "This," she said, "is the moment everything burns." Before she could press it, the penthouse doors burst open again, and a new voice shouted, "Stop! No one plays that recording until you hear the truth about the baby." The penthouse froze in a collective gasp as the doors slammed open. Guests turned like a school of fish, scattering and reforming around a shark. Conversations died mid-sentence. Glasses were lowered. Even the chandeliers seemed to vibrate with tension. A group of sharply dressed individuals strode into the room. 5 men, 3 women, all in immaculate suits, all wearing expressions carved from steel. Lauren recognized the crest on their badges. The Halesphere Board of Directors. Not the PR committee. Not the compliance team. Not casual observers. The actual board. The people who controlled Grayson's empire. The tallest among them, a gray-haired man with piercing blue eyes, stepped forward. He was Samuel Lauren, the board's chairman, known in the industry for dismantling CEOs like a surgeon dismantles diseased tissue. He surveyed the room once, then spoke with a voice that carried effortlessly. "This event," he said, "is over." Celeste actually stepped back. Grayson visibly paled. Samuel continued, "We received a series of leaked materials tonight, videos, emails, and a set of recordings forwarded anonymously. We traced the IP to this penthouse." Every camera phone lifted. Lauren's heart hammered. "It wasn't me." Samuel shook his head. "We know." His gaze cut to Grayson. "Mr. Hale, step forward." Grayson swallowed hard, but he tried to maintain composure. "Samuel, this is not the place." "This is exactly the place," Samuel said. Half the investors who arrived for this event have already contacted us, demanding answers. The board members formed a half-circle, facing Grayson, an unmistakable formation. A tribunal. A corporate execution waiting to happen. Celeste clutched her phone, her lip trembling. "We will address each allegation," Samuel said. "The forged emails, the manipulated audio, the leaked video, and the coordinated attack on Miss Bennett." Lauren felt her breath catch. She wasn't expecting the board to say her name aloud. She certainly wasn't expecting the sympathy in their tone. Grayson's voice cracked. "Lauren is unstable. She's trying to—" "Enough," Samuel snapped, silencing him. "We've seen enough to know who is unstable." Celeste let out a broken laugh. "Oh, you're in trouble now." Grayson glared. "You think you're walking away from this? You helped fabricate everything." Celeste lifted her chin. "But you orchestrated it. They know that now. By have Haberbes. By Rebesis." Adrian stepped forward, voice cool. "Would you like your ex-employees to confirm it, too? Because some of them reached out to my assistant tonight." He turned to the board, including Halesphere's former cybersecurity lead. A murmur of shock moved through the crowd. Samuel glanced at Adrian. "We received the same message. The evidence is substantial." Grayson staggered slightly, like the floor shifted beneath him. "Samuel, please give me a chance to explain." "Bien." Samuel's expression hardened. "Explain to whom? The investors leaving? The journalists printing tonight's meltdown? Or the legal teams filing requests as we speak?" Lauren's breathing faltered. This was a nightmare, yet also justice long overdue. Samuel turned to her gently. "Miss Bennett, we apologize for what you've been subjected to. Halesphere takes this situation seriously." She blinked in disbelief. "I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything," Samuel replied. Then his eyes shifted to Celeste. "Miss Monroe, hand us the device." Celeste stiffened. "Why?" "Because it likely contains criminal evidence." Slowly shaking, she handed it over. Samuel then faced Grayson, who now looked like a man drowning. "Effective immediately," Samuel said. "You are suspended pending full investigation." The room erupted. Lauren gripped Adrian's sleeve, overwhelmed. Grayson's voice broke, raw and terrified. "Samuel, you're ruining me." "No," Samuel said quietly. "You ruined yourself." Before anyone could breathe again, another board member leaned in and whispered something urgently into Samuel's ear. Samuel's expression shifted sharply. He turned to Lauren. "Miss Bennett, there's something more, something we were just informed of." Her heartbeat faltered. "What? What is it?" Samuel exhaled deeply, the weight of the revelation tightening his features. "The video wasn't the only thing leaked. Someone also exposed the identity of your baby's father." For a long, breathless moment, Lauren couldn't move. The words, "your baby's father," echoed in the room like a thunderclap, shaking the last bits of stability out from under her. People whispered with growing hunger, their curiosity tightening around her like a fist. The flash of cameras from the balcony caught the glimmer of shock still frozen on her face. Adrian stepped closer immediately, placing a protective hand against the small of her back, gentle, steady, grounding. "We're leaving," he murmured. "You don't have to stand here and be dissected." She wanted to speak, wanted to say yes, wanted to run, but her voice was trapped somewhere behind the fear flooding her chest. Her baby twisted, the sudden tension radiating pain across her ribs. She sucked in a sharp breath. Adrian didn't wait for permission. He helped her turn away from the crowd, shielding her body with his as voices erupted behind them. "Who leaked it? Is it Grayson? Does she even know? That man, wasn't he with her earlier?" Gossip, sharp and venomous, followed them like snapping dogs as they pushed toward the elevator. The board members tried to rein in the chaos, but panic spread faster than control. The elevator doors opened just as another shout cut through the room. "Lauren, you can't leave." "Is offere." Grayson's voice, broken, hoarse, echoed across the hall. She didn't turn. Adrian blocked Grayson's path with a single step, not another word to her. Grayson's face twisted. "You think you can take her? You think this makes you a savior?" But Adrian stepped backward into the elevator, pulling Lauren with him. "I'm not saving her from anything she can't handle. I'm saving her from you." The doors slid shut before Grayson could answer. The elevator began its descent. Lauren exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Her hands trembled violently, and she pressed them over her belly. Adrian placed his palm gently over hers. "Easy," he whispered. "You're safe now." Tears filled her eyes, hot, frustrated, exhausted. "I didn't want tonight to happen like this. I just wanted my paperwork. I just wanted to be left alone." "I know," Adrian murmured. "But you walked into a war you didn't start." End quote. The elevator dinged softly as the doors opened to the lobby. Outside the glass entrance, a cluster of reporters gathered like vultures, flashes bursting in rapid staccato. Security workers rushed to block the doors, but they knew it wouldn't hold for long. Adrian turned to her. "I'm taking you out through the loading bay. Back exit, no cameras." She nodded weakly, leaning on him as they moved through a side hallway. Her steps were uneven. Her vision wavered at the edges. The combination of fear, humiliation, and physical strain tightened around her like a vice. Adrian paused, his hand tightening gently on her arm. "Lauren, if you feel faint again, tell me." "I'm okay," she whispered, but her voice cracked. They pushed through a service door and emerged into the alley behind the tower. Snow drifted under the glow of dim security lights, soft and silver like falling ash. The cold slapped her cheeks, a sharp contrast to the suffocating heat of the penthouse. Adrian shrugged off his coat and draped it over her shoulders. The warmth of it, the quiet kindness, shattered something inside her. "You shouldn't have to carry all of this alone," he said quietly. She closed her eyes. "I never wanted anyone else involved." "Sometimes," he murmured, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. "Strong people don't get to choose when they need help." Lauren shivered, this time not from the cold. A black car pulled up at the end of the alley, sleek and silent. Adrian guided her toward it, hand firm at her back. She paused before getting in, lifting her eyes to his. "Adrian, do you know who leaked the father's identity?" His expression darkened, not with anger, but with a knowledge he wasn't sure he should speak yet. He opened the door for her. "Get in," he said gently, "because the truth is bigger than you think." She slid inside, heart pounding. Adrian followed. And just as the doors locked, a figure stepped out of the shadows, blocking their path with a single devastating sentence. "Lauren, I'm the one who leaked it." The alley was cold enough to burn. Snowflakes drifted past the dim security lamp, catching in Lauren's hair as she turned slowly, breathlessly toward the silhouette stepping out of the shadows. Her pulse hammered. Adrian's hand reflexively reached for her arm, steadying her as the figure took another step forward. And then the light caught his face. Lauren's breath caught. "Evan," she whispered. Evan Marshall, the paramedic. The quiet, gentle medic who had treated her the night she fainted months ago. The one who'd stayed with her through the panic attack. The one who'd followed up, checking on her well-being even when he didn't have to. The one who had comforted her on the worst night of her marriage. Evan stepped closer, snow dusting his dark curls. His eyes, soft, earnest, held hers with devastating honesty. "Lauren," he said quietly, "we need to talk." Adrian stiffened. "You're the one who leaked the paternity? Why?" Evan exhaled, his breath fogging in the cold. "Because they were about to ruin her. And if the world thinks Grayson is the father, she becomes collateral damage in a corporate war she never signed up for." Lauren's voice trembled. "But why would you do that? Why you?" His jaw tightened, not with anger, but with the weight of something long unsaid. "Because I'm the father," Evan said softly. The world slipped out from under her. She grabbed the edge of the car door to steady herself. "Evan, no, that night," he nodded slowly. "The night you showed up at the hospital. You were terrified. You thought you were losing everything. We talked for hours. And when you said Grayson had walked out again, that he'd left you standing in the rain with no place to go, I couldn't let you go home alone." Memories flickered like dim lanterns. Evan giving her a dry blanket. Evan's voice calming her breathing. Evan offering his guest room. Evan listening as she cried herself empty. She had been broken that night, shattered into pieces she didn't know how to hold. "You were vulnerable," Evan said. "I didn't want to cross a line, but you kissed me. And you told me you needed just for one night to feel like you weren't disposable." Lauren pressed her hand to her mouth as tears welled. "I never regretted it," Evan said. "Not for a second. But I stepped back when you found out you were pregnant. You were overwhelmed. You needed space. So I watched from a distance. Until tonight, when the world turned on you." Adrian inhaled slowly, the truth settling over him. "You leaked it to protect her." Evan nodded. "If the truth didn't surface now, Grayson would weaponize every rumor to bury her. I couldn't let that happen. Lauren sobbed softly. Evan, this is too much. Everything's spinning. He stepped closer but didn't touch her. I only want what's best for you and the baby. That's all I've ever wanted. The snow thickened around them, falling faster, heavier. Lauren felt torn between gratitude, shock, fear, and a strange, aching warmth. Adrian finally spoke, voice steady. We need to get her somewhere safe. Tonight is spiraling out of control. Evan nodded. I'll come with you if she wants. Lauren looked between them, the man who stood beside her through every battle tonight, and the man who carried a piece of her future in his blood. Her lips parted to speak, but suddenly, shouts erupted from the mouth of the alley. Paparazzi, reporters, flashlights, running feet. Someone had tipped them off, and they were coming straight for her. The alley exploded with flashing lights and frantic voices as reporters surged forward. Microphones rose like spears. Camera flashes burst in rapid-fire chaos. Snowflakes spiraled in the glare, turning the air into a blizzard of white and silver. Lauren, is it true? Who's the father? Did Hale cover it up? Is this a scandal or a setup? Lauren staggered backward, overwhelmed. Her hand clutched her belly as the baby kicked hard, fear reacting to fear. She felt a wave of panic rising, threatening to swallow her whole. Adrian moved instantly, stepping in front of her. Back off, he barked, voice echoing down the alley. She's done being hunted tonight. Evan stepped beside him, shoulders squared, forming a protective wall. Security finally spilled out from the building, forcing reporters back. A guard opened the car door urgently. Get in. Now. Adrian guided Lauren inside. Evan slid in after her. The car peeled away from the curb, leaving the chaos shrinking behind them. For the first time all night, silence. Lauren pressed a trembling hand to her stomach. Adrian touched her wrist gently. Evan watched her, eyes full of worry. You don't have to choose anything right now, Adrian murmured. Not me, not him, not this situation. You only need to breathe. Lauren closed her eyes as tears fell quiet, relieved, exhausted. The car carried them to Evan's building, a quiet brownstone on a peaceful Brooklyn street dusted with snow. Inside, warmth wrapped around her instantly. Evan guided her to sit on the couch, while Adrian made tea in the small kitchen without being asked. Silent understanding between two men who both cared for her differently. When she finally spoke, her voice cracked. Tonight, everything broke. Adrian knelt beside her. Sometimes things break because the truth is too big to stay hidden. End quote. Evan sat across from her. And sometimes they break so something better can be rebuilt. Lauren looked at them, two men who had stood by her when the world tried to crush her, and something inside her finally loosened. I don't want revenge, she whispered. I just want peace. You'll have it, Adrian said. Look. He turned his phone toward her. A breaking news update filled the screen. Grayson Hale removed as CEO. Federal investigation underway. Celesta Monroe detained for evidence tampering. Lauren felt her breath shudder out relief, justice, closure. Everything they stole from her, her reputation, her dignity, her voice, finally returned. She'll face charges, Adrian said softly. He will too. And you? Evan asked gently. Lauren wiped a tear. I'm free. The three of them sat quietly as snow drifted past the window. Finally, Evan leaned forward. Lauren, I won't pressure you. I'm here for our child. As much or as little as you want. Adrian nodded. And I'm here too. Not because of obligation, because I care. Lauren looked down at her belly. The baby moved, as if reminding her what mattered most. I choose, she whispered, eyes softening, a fresh start. For me, for my child, and for the people who truly care about us. Evan exhaled, relieved. Adrian smiled, gentle, unforced. Adrian stood. Then tonight, let's just protect that peace. Later, Evan drove her home. He helped her out of the car, snow falling around them like gentle confetti. He didn't ask for anything. He didn't reach for her. He simply kissed her forehead softly. You're stronger than you know, he whispered. Lauren smiled small, real. Thank you for everything. As Evan walked back to the car, Lauren turned toward her building. In the reflection of the glass door, she saw herself tired, yes, but standing tall. A mother, a survivor. A woman finally free. She placed one hand on her belly and whispered, "We're okay now." Snow drifted around her as she stepped inside, closing the door on the past, on the lies, on the cruelty. The night was silent. The future hers at last. And the story ended exactly where it needed to, with truth, justice, and a woman finally reclaiming her life. So, that's where our story finally comes to a close. And if you are still here, still watching, still listening with your whole heart, then something in this journey must have touched you in a way only life can. Maybe it reminded you of your own strength. Maybe it whispered that healing is real. Or maybe it simply showed you that no matter how dark things get, there is always a door quiet, steady, waiting for you to walk through. The Stoics often said, "The obstacle is the way." And tonight, Lauren's story proves it. What tried to break her actually became the thing that shaped her courage. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." She couldn't control the betrayal, the rumors, the cruelty, but she controlled how she rose. And in the end, that changed everything. So, my wonderful friends, before you leave, take a breath, place a hand on your heart, and remember this. You deserve peace. You deserve truth. You deserve a life where you are no longer surviving, but living. If this story moved you, even just a little, please like, share, and subscribe to stay with us on the next chapter of Healing and Hope. We're right here with you. Always.